Good evening and welcome into the Pacers Podcast Show. I'm Kyle Newman, your host.
And I'm Rhett Hensley, your co-host.
We have a great lineup for the next half hour. We will discuss the Pacers' last three games, talk about their upcoming games, and talk Paul George's return next month. Rhett Hensley, it's great to have you back for our second show. This will be fun.
Thank you. Yes, it will. Looking forward to it.
All right, well, let's get right into it then. On February 20th, the Pacers played at Philadelphia in the third matchup of the year against Philly, who is Michael Carter-Williams-less now, thanks to him getting traded to the Bucks before the deadline. Indiana looked ready to play coming out of the All-Star break, getting the win 106-95. Rodney Stuckey led the way for the Pacers with 30. He did sprain his left ankle late in the fourth quarter. C.J. Miles had 17, and Luis Scola had 16. For the Sixers, Mbah Moute and Jeremy Grant led the way with 16 points each. Rhett, I thought the bench played great in this game. Stuckey had a nice coming-out party, recording his first 30-point game of the year. The Pacers had 13 steals, and they forced 18 total turnovers, so defense was solid. One blemish for Indiana was they had 15 turnovers. What did you see in this game?
Well, I saw, great team play. I'd say one of the things leading into those turnovers would be they were not selfish with the ball. They were moving it, and that's why, Stuckey has 30, C.J. Miles 17, Luis Scola having 16. They were just giving out the ball. They didn't want to play selfish, and that's why they won the game.
No doubt, no doubt. This was a game that Indiana had to win. They went into the All-Star break with a little bit of momentum, got to 12 games under 500, knew, okay, we'll have a weekend off, but then it's time to get back to business, and they had to beat Philadelphia, even though it was a road game. They lost earlier in the year on the road in a game that they should have won. So this was one that they had to get, and you could tell from the start they were ready to play. They looked good.
Yes, that is true.
Well, Indiana is now 2-1 against Philly this year, and they will be playing them one more time. We will get to that later in the show because that is one of their next three games. So let's take a look at their second to last game. February 22nd, 2 days later, they took on the bad team that Golden State is at home. In the second matchup of the year against the Warriors, Indiana came up with the big win, 104-98. Indiana has now squared the season series against the Warriors. Golden State is the best team in the NBA at 43-10. Rodney Stuckey led the Pacers once again with another 30-point performance. I have some stats for you, Rhett. According to ESPN, stats and information from Elias, Rodney Stuckey is the first player in Pacers history with consecutive 30-point games off the bench. C.J. Miles finished with 13. Those were the two leading scorers for the Pacers. For the Warriors, Klay Thompson led the way with 39. Couldn't miss. Followed by Andre Iguodala, who had 14. A side note, Steph Curry did miss this game due to a sore right ankle. He is their best player. And, Rhett, I thought the story was clearly Stuckey, who continued his coming-out party even on a bum ankle. He's just playing out of his mind, looking like the Stuckey that the Pacers anticipated when they acquired him in the offseason. What did you see?
Oh, yeah, Stuckey. That was great coming out, back-to-back 30-point games. And, we took advantage of Curry being out. But Klay Thompson, he played tough, couldn't miss. I mean, we've had consecutive times that, we had hands in his face, and he would knock him down. He's the one that kept him in that game, and thankfully Stuckey led the team, took over, and, had 30 points, 5 assists, and 4 rebounds. That's good stats right there, definitely for being off the bench.
Absolutely. He is a tough player, and really the poise of Indiana impressed me. They overcame an early 12-point deficit. Even though the Warriors were without Steph Curry, their leading scorer at almost 24 points per game, this win was still impressive because this team is deep and they play so well together. Here are a couple more stats from Elias. The bench had 61 points for the Pacers, which was the second consecutive 61-point performance for the NBA's third highest scoring bench.
Wow.
That surprises me. I honestly can say I did not think or know that Indiana's bench was that good, but the third highest scoring bench. Indiana wore its 1990s FloJo jerseys for the second of 6 games this season. So 4 more games they have with these jerseys. The jerseys were designed by USA track and field star Florence Griffith Joyner. The Pacers are 2-0 when wearing the throwbacks this year. Maybe with their remaining 4 games with them, they will have as much success, Rhett.
Oh yeah, those are one of my favorite jerseys, and tell you what, they're playing great so far with them.
Yes, they are. It kind of brings a little bit of nostalgia for me because Reggie Miller, one of my favorite players of all time, favorite Pacer, he looked great in those jerseys. Our players look great in them now. They are bringing them back. I love when the Pacers go to their throwback jerseys or when they go to their alternate jerseys.
I know, that is true. And one little side note that I'd like to bring up is Frank Vogel bringing in his 190th win. 190th win. He is tied for the most wins in Pacers franchise. Get one more, and he will be the, leading the franchise in coach wins.
Good stat, Red. That is impressive. I love me some Frank Vogel. I do.
Oh yeah.
I should say here the first loss against the Warriors came back on January 7th at Golden State, 117-102. Again, the Warriors and the Pacers are now 1-1 so far this year, and Indiana won this game 104-98. Good win for the Pacers. Let's get on to their last game that they played last night, the 24th at OKC, a team who has been on fire lately. In the first matchup of the year against the Thunder, the Pacers were outplayed by the Westbrook Charge team, losing 105-92. The Thunder have won 7 in a row, and even without Durant, they are still a lethal team with so much depth. Ibaka led OKC with 23 points and 10 rebounds, followed by Westbrook recording his third triple-double of the year, 20 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists. And Enes Kanter added 15 for the Thunder. He is a trade from the Jazz for them, who is playing well for them lately. For the Pacers, Miles led the way with 21, followed by George Hill with 13. And the big difference here in this game, to me, Stuckey, who had 2 previous 30-point games, as we mentioned earlier, finished with 5. Rhett, what did you see in this game? Tough loss for the Pacers on the road.
Oh, it sure was. Stuckey didn't have a good game. Well, really, I didn't think any of the Pacers had a good game. But Westbrook, he was just out of his mind that night. Recorded a triple-double, I believe his third one of the year. And then you got Kanter, down low. He's just helping them out down low. It's a better addition to their team from Kendrick Perkins. Once KD gets brought back, we didn't take advantage of him being out for this game, but that's just a team that will be hard to play either way, especially when you're on the road. That is one of the hardest places to play at, and they'll have to look and get back at them next time.
Absolutely. You're right. It is one of the toughest places to play. One of the best crowds and fan base in the NBA. I thought that Miles had a good game. He had 21. He's been playing really well for us lately. The difference was really just Westbrook and Ibaka, but mainly Westbrook because the Pacers made a run, cut it to 3 in the third, and then they had a few players bang off a few straight threes, and the game was a 20-point game. So it was a good game. We fought hard, but too much Westbrook on the road.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, it was sloppy play, but they did just pull it away in the fourth quarter, no doubt about that.
Definitely.
But I believe that if we would have had Rodney Stuckey playing like he did the past couple nights, that would have helped. But I mean, you're coming off beating the best team in the league, not having that much momentum. Probably coming into that one, even though you wanted to get Frank Vogel up in that number 1 spot for leading franchise wins, but maybe next time.
Back. Yeah.
Yes.
Have to bounce back. Losses do occur. Well, let's before we get into the next segment with their upcoming games, we have a soundbite from the Cavs game earlier this year. George Hill came up with the deciding play, beating one of the best teams in the NBA, and really will be there in the end. I think you guys will enjoy this. Take a listen.
Time left, 90 seconds. So look at posting up David West on LeBron James. Here's Hill, throws it up. Is that? George Hill got it. George Hill with one hand and draws the foul. That's just good. You see if it's a 2. They're calling it a 2. Now, if he's behind the line, hard to see from that angle, it'll be a 3. That's a 3. What a shot by George Hill with 1:26 to play. I mean, it really is a heck of a shot.
Wow. Brett, George Hill with the one-handed 4-point play. What a play against the Cavs.
That is just a crazy shot. That's just pure luck right there. I don't know how he got that off, but he did, and luckily it went in the basket. That is something that I would sure like to do. But, wow, yeah, that's just a fantastic shot right there.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, let's talk about their upcoming games here. According to the Strength of Schedules ratings, Indiana has one of the easiest remaining schedules in the East. Indiana is now 23-34, but they've won 3 out of their last 4 games, 7 out of their last 10. They are tied with Detroit in 10th place. The Pacers are only a half game behind Charlotte in the 9th, and they're just a game and a half out from the Nets in the 8th, not to mention only 2 games out from the Heat in the 7th. So this East is very tight here from the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th place seedings. It's going to be a wild finish. They're in striking distance, and they're playing good basketball as of late. Their upcoming game is against the Cavs on the 27th. 1-1 against the Cavs so far this season. Big game. The first matchup at Cleveland was back on November 29th of 2014. Lost 109-97. Love had 28. LeBron had 19. Irving had 24. For the Pacers, West led all scorers for Indiana he had 14. Solomon Hill had 13, and Copeland had 11. Hibbert was out in this game for his 4th straight game with a sprained left ankle. Varejao missed the game due to a rib contusion. Now out for season with the torn Achilles. In the second matchup versus the Cavs back on February 6th, the soundbite just went back to this. We won 103-99 at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. C.J. Miles had 26, West had 20, and George Hill had 20, who made the acrobatic four-point play one-handed that sealed the victory with 1:26 to play as the Pacers were down one prior to that shot. So they were down by one. That really was the deciding play. For the Cavs, Irving led all scorers with 29. LeBron had 25, and Love only had 5, which I thought was a key in that game. I expect the third matchup between these two teams to be more like the last matchup. Rhett, what do you think about this tough game upcoming against the Cavs?
Well, I'm looking forward to the Cavs game. Pacers played really well last time, and, that George Hill shot at the end of the game was, I believe, the momentum changer. That just got them all riled up. So, I'm looking forward to watching them come in. George Hill, hopefully he'll have another good game. Hopefully Rodney Stuckey will show up and C.J. Miles. And, would you like to see Roy Hibbert show up to this game?
I would like Roy Hibbert to show up to this game. We don't say his name very often, do we, buddy?
No, we do not.
Yes, he really does. He needs to have a good game because they have a guy in Moskov down low who's doing work for the Cavs. And it will be a tough game. Even though we're at home, it will be a tough game. I agree with you, though. Hibbert needs to play better. I think that Stuckey will get back on track and hopefully do some more scoring. And then we need our veterans, George Hill and David West, to play better, too.
Yes, we sure do.
So that will be a fun one. Hopefully it can be the same results as the last game.
Yeah, I think that one of the key factors will be playing Chris Copeland. I think bringing him off the bench, first of all, that gets the crowd pumped up, and, he can knock down shots from behind the arc.
Yes, he can. Yes, he can. We definitely have seen it before and would like to see more of that. So hopefully Copeland can have a good game. That should be a tough one. Well, let's get on to their second game upcoming. The 1st of March, the measly Sixers, again, in Bankers Life. This is the final matchup of the year between these two teams. Indiana is 2-1 against them this season. The last win, as we mentioned earlier, came just over a week ago at Philly, 106-95. This was a coming out party for Stuckey, as we alluded to, who had 30. Miles had 17, and Scola had 16 to ignite the great bench play. For the Sixers, Mbah Moute and Jeremy Grant led the way with 16 points each. The previous win came at home for the regular season opener back on October 29th of 2014, 103-91. The loss against the Sixers came back on January 10th at Philly, 93-92. That was the one that came down to the wire. David West missed the game winner. Probably should have won it. I expect Indiana to dominate the Sixers, Rhett, in this one, just like they did a week ago. They're back at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. They know they need to beat a low-quality opponent like Philly. What do you expect in this game?
I expected them to come out, show up. Once, obviously, Rodney Stuckey, he had a coming-out party last time we played them. And, there's just not too many people left for the 76ers. Hopefully that we can take advantage of that and pull out a win.
No doubt, and I agree with you. The Sixers are a little thin. It's pretty much Nerlens Noel, and that's it. So
that is true.
It is. It's one of those games again. I mentioned earlier, one of the easiest remaining schedules in the East. You move past the Cavs game because that's a game the Pacers very well could lose. The Cavs are going to be wanting revenge. If the Pacers do happen to lose, this is a game they have to bounce back and win because the standings are tight, and we know that come playoff time, you have to be ready. And I hope that the Pacers are ready to go. What do you think? Any last thoughts on the Sixers?
Well, they just got to come out and win. It's a must game, must win.
Absolutely, no doubt. All right, well, let's get to their third game before our next show next week on the 4th of March, home against the Knickerbockers. The Pacers are 1-0 against the Knicks so far, with that win coming back on January 29th at home, 103-82. Stuckey led the way for Indiana in that one with 22. And Roy Hibbert, had 18 for the Knicks. To no surprise, Melo led the way with 18, followed by Lou Amundsen, the ex-Pacer, with 17. Rhett, it was really a dominating performance the whole way for the Pacers. I expect more of the same in this second matchup at home since Melo is out for the year. This is a bad New York Knicks team. They may even be worse than the Sixers.
Bad? Oh, my. That is a team I feel bad for.
Well, please, tell me what do you see in this game?
I saw a guy out today. He was wearing a New York Knicks sweatshirt. And I was just sitting there thinking, you might want to put a paper bag over your head. Don't be seen out in public with that. They are just awful this year. And
that's funny. That reminds me of the picture you sent me of the Cavs fans at the All-Star game, or the Knicks fans at the All-Star weekend at the All-Star game had bags over their heads for the Knicks and Carmelo. That kind of sums it all up. But what do you see in this game? Because you don't want to overlook any opponent. That's when you get dangerous and could lose it. But what do you see in this as simple for the simple keys that Indiana to win?
I just think they need to stay focused, come out and show that they mean business when they play any team, even if it's a low-quality opponent. I mean, the Pacers are not the finest of themselves, so they need to come out and take care of work. I mean, need production with everybody. You never know with a team. They can come out and be the worst team in the league. I mean, we've seen it last year, we've seen it this year, and they can still come out and beat people.
Very true, very true. So let's see if Indiana can get on a little bit of a roll here. Again, 7 out of their last 10. Maybe they can make it 10 out of their next 13 by the time we have our show next week. So we will see. Well, before we get to our last segment, Paul George's return next month, we have another soundbite for you. Paul George. You guys may remember this one. It's hard to forget it. In a game form, I won't spoil it for you. Take a listen.
He's 5 of 6 behind the arc.
Oh, got that steal too.
And here he goes.
Here we go.
PG puts
Oh,
it in.
yeah! Oh, yeah, PG!
That is the one. There's no question. That is the one. Look at this again.
Oh, boy.
I mean, that's slam dunk competition in a game.
Yeah, as long as he keeps it in the game.
That's why you don't turn the dial when the Pacers are on.
Do you remember that dunk? Paul George, the 360 windmill in the game. Rhett, I distinctly remember him doing this game and the broadcasters going crazy. It was an awesome dunk. He does them all the time. He's a confident man. He is coming back. It's going to be exciting. What did you think of that dunk?
Oh, my. I had to pick my jaw off the ground when I saw that dunk. I was sitting there watching it at home on my couch, and I was speechless for the next 5 minutes. That was just an insane dunk to do in game form. It was incredible.
It really was. And Paul George, the man has had a tough end to his 2014 and 2015 NBA season. Let's recap everyone. Let's fill them if they didn't know what had happened. Let's fill them in. George has been out all year due to a fracture of his tibia and fibula in his lower right leg, which occurred in a practice for USA Basketball on August 2nd. The FIBA World Cup was later that month. This was a gruesome injury, Rhett. And really, it's remarkable to me that Paul George has made a full recovery in 7 months and is ready to get into full contact practice.
Oh yeah, his mindset on coming back, and once you get get it in your sights, you do what you can to get back into that form. And he doesn't want to miss any basketball. He wants to push the Indiana Pacers towards that playoff, spurt, and he wants to, push us as far as they can go. If they can get the 7th or 8th seed, that will be, they'll be a team that you'll need to watch out for with Paul George coming back, because they're getting that 7th or 8th seed if they do without Paul George. And with him getting added into the mix, that can definitely change things up.
It definitely can, and I for one, am very confident that the Pacers will get into at least the 8th seed, but I think I will go to the 7th seed based on a couple of things. One, the Heat are without Chris Bosh now. They're in the 7th seed. That really hurts them. Even though they picked up Goran Dragic, that will hurt them having Bosh out, and they just are not as deep. Maybe they'll end up being the 8th. I kind of see it being maybe the Pacers get the 7th if Paul George comes back and is very productive as the leader of the team. Heat finish in the 8th. The other thing is, as I mentioned earlier, the Pacers have one of the easiest remaining schedules in the East. That bodes well when you're only a couple games out from the 7th seed in the East.
That is true. The Miami Heat, I wouldn't like to see them in the playoffs, but if they stay in there, hopefully they will get the 8th seed, and Pacers will push themselves past the 8th seed and get the 7th seed. I feel like they can do it. They just have to have their mind right, and Paul George coming in has to perform if he comes back, and even if he comes off the bench, he will still add some depth to this roster, and I'd like to see it.
Right on, no doubt. I would too. Well, you say if, that's a good point. Let's bring to light to the audience what the reports have said. Now, keep in mind, a gruesome injury like that could have ended his career, but he was determined to not let it faze him and to come back stronger than ever. According to Yahoo Sports, George said he is targeting a March 1st return to full contact practice and a mid-March return to game form, maybe the 14th against Boston? If this is true, he would have 18 games to get back into the swing of things before the playoffs would start. Rhett, it's clear he is the leader of this team. Last year, he averaged almost 22 points per game, almost 7 rebounds per game, and 3.5 assists per game. He was all-defensive first team last year and an all-star. It is clear the Pacers need their leader back for a postseason push. What do you think?
I think that's true. Getting him back will motivate the team, I believe. They will want to make that push into the playoffs. I see that, March 1st, and then his expected return is March 14th. That doesn't give too much time for him to, get back in the swing of things with full contact. But, while he's playing, he will get back into that form, and, he'll get physical again. And I'm looking forward to watching that and seeing how it plays out.
No doubt. I am too. It will be an interesting thing. The Pacers need Paul George back. Even if he comes back and we're talking about him just getting 15 to 20 minutes to start, he will be a player that can settle for jump shots and not have to go to the hoop, and he'll probably average double figures every game. He's just that special of a player, and I see Indiana making that final push that they need with Paul George back. I thought that the Pacers would make the push even if he didn't come back. So with him coming back, that's why I think they can get all the way to the 7th seed. And unless something crazy happens with the Bucks in the 6th seed falling, I see that being where they stand. But, I mean, clearly, Rhett, Paul George and his chemistry with this team, George Hill, David West, Roy Hibbert, a couple of the bench players, the chemistry is there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
sure is. And, I see that, Paul George coming back, with after he got back, it'd be 18 games or so. Roy Hibbert, if we're looking back in the time, at closer to the end of the season, playoffs coming up, he started getting back in the push of things. And, if he's going in his little routine, then hopefully that will help us get pushed into the playoffs. I would like to see Roy Hibbert bring his game back to the basketball game. He is a player that needs to show Indiana that they need him because he's getting paid the big dollars. And
the franchise center, he's getting paid like that. That's what he was expected to be getting paid as and perform as. And, maybe with Paul George coming back, the chemistry will be there because George makes everyone better around him. He surely would be able to help get him the basketball more down low. I think Paul George all around, he adds the spark plug in every which way, offense, defense, It doesn't matter. On the bench,
motivation.
Yes, he is the motivation for the Pacers, and I think, quite frankly, he's been the motivation for them. And whenever they found out that he was going to be coming back, I think they were even more motivated. And
yes.
he tweets out, "Keep it up, boys." He's excited. He's proud of them. They've been playing well. It's been an up and down season, but a lot of games to go still here in 2015. So it should be a good finish.
I'm looking forward to it.
Same here, Rhett. All right, well, that's about all we have for tonight's show. To recap, we talked about the Pacers' last 3 games. We talked about their upcoming games, and we talked about Paul George's return next month.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Next week's show will be a good one. Stay tuned. I hope you guys listen in and stay tuned each week. We won't give any spoilers for next week, so thank you for tuning in to our show. Feel free to leave any comments and feedback. We will be back at it next Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern Time. I'm Kyle Newman.
And I'm Rhett Hensley.
Have a good night.